How's it going, Exile? So I'm back for 0.4, and I just want to talk a little bit about my league start plans. And it was very hard for me to make a decision what I actually want to league start. I was first going for the safe route, just starting a Blood Mage with ED Contagion. But then, we got all this new information now about the ascendancies. And, I kind of don't want to miss out on all the FOMO on the Druid class because there's some pretty wild ascendancies here. That being said, my league start is going to be the Oracle or the Druid. I'm going to play ED Contagion Druid to just have a safe start. I don't want to experiment with the new skills, at least in the campaign, because, I have had very bad experience experimenting with the new skills in the campaign. It kind of, gives you a rough time if it doesn't work. It can be very rewarding if it does work, but the risk is a little bit too high for me. And we're really just talking about the first 6 to 8 hours of the entire play here. However, what changed my decision here to not play it safe, to at least play the Druid, but in a little bit more safe way, so I'm just gonna again play it ED Contagion, because you can pretty much play this on any class anyway, is the Oracle class. And not even so much about, all this, totem stuff and whatever. I think these are all nice options, but I'm kind of looking at invitable critical hits here, because this basically gives you a critical hit which do not roll a critical hit, will just start re-rolling until they roll one. And yes, they do 30% less critical damage bonus, but this is just less critical damage bonus, so they will always deal their base damage and a little bit on top of it. And this opens a lot of avenues for cast on critical builds. So you could run a cast on critical build even without a single point in critical hit chance, because you would in this case don't care, because you just want to do the critical strike so that your cast on crit triggers. The damage probably doesn't even matter, because even if you have a 5% crit chance, you would still do your base damage of your skill, which it would have done without critting. So this basically just gives you the option to play cast on critical on pretty much everything without worrying to even have crit, because the left side of the tree doesn't have a lot of crit. It has a little bit of crit, but not a lot of crit. So it kind of allows us to do pretty much everything we want regarding triggering spells. And the Druid has a lot of cool new spells, which we can all try out, and we can just make like a casual whatever, like Spark setup with a cast on critical and just try out all the casts and stuff like that. So I feel like this is a very, very interesting node, enabling a lot of interesting cast on critical routes, and I definitely want to try that out, because in the past, I wouldn't say cast on critical has been locked to Blood Mage, but it was very hard to reach up to 100% crit chance with non-Blood Mage classes. So now, since the Blood Mage has been severely nerfed, well, I still think Blood Mage is a very good choice, but, I would just play Blood Mage because it has the option to reach 100% crit and run cast on crit, because that's what the class is kind of right now made for. It doesn't really matter so much that it's a Blood Mage or not. It's really just made for doing the cast on critical stuff. And now with this invitable critical hits, we can pretty much run cast on critical on another class. So I think the risk of, playing the Oracle and just running in a total bust is not really there, because you can always just, fall back to like a Spark cast on critical and just do some awesome stuff with that. There's one more thing I want to talk about, actually, which is the Entwined realities here, which basically allows you to allocate non-keystone passive skills in medium radius of allocated keystones. So this is kind of a from nothing, but you have to allocate the keystone. But there's a huge difference. This is actually medium radius. So if you look at PoB, this is medium radius around keystones. So, whatever it may be, I'm not even going to judge which keystones we're going to take, because this tree is going to be changing and there's keystones at different positions. So I don't even want to argue about that. But, just look at the range of these. Like, for example, if we would have Mind Over Matter, you could take Storm Charge, you could take this one here, you could take the Cast Speed. This radius is pretty damn large. Also, like for, like kind of these, if you want to play like infusions, you can basically get all of these for free. And I think there's some pretty interesting plays also with this Black Flame convenient keystone, which you really don't need for anything. But let's say you want to play, like something like a Chaos build, or like an Orb build or whatever. Like you can get all these keystones here, pretty much all these exposure ones, with just outpassing. And I'm not going to say that this is going to be extremely strong, but because, we don't know how the keystones look like. But for example, this one here, also, if you would just, get Whispers of Doom, which doesn't really hurt any build at all, you can get like all these, like whatever, like Power Conduction, you can get like +1 Chaos skills, you can get these avatar nodes, here, like lightning avatar, whatever. You can get this energy shield node, you can get raw mana. So the medium radius on keystones is actually pretty damn large. So this is definitely something to consider. Again, we don't know, as there is no keystones in this part of the tree, right? And we're going to start here. So we might have, some very interesting choices with that ascendancy. So that's another part why I want to choose this. So it's probably going to be, the lesser harm and then the forced outcome with some cast on critical build. And then we go for the Entwined realities. And it also has the pass not taken, which gives us all the extra nodes we don't know how they look like. So it's also included here. Yes, there's no raw power at all invited, like included in this route here. But I think by just, getting like these keystone shenanigans and basically giving us 100% free cast on crit trigger on literally every skill we want, can make this a very, very interesting ascendancy. So this is kind of my plan, what I'm looking to explore as a first build. And again, I'm gonna start this with an ED Contagion. So I made like a little guide for an ED Contagion. This is for an Infernalist, but it shouldn't really matter at all what you're playing. So I basically have a full guide for you here. You start in Act 1, then Act 2, Act 3. So we're going through all the gear, what you want to have here. We have all like the priorities. You start with Unearth, Chaos Bolt, Contagion, Essence Drain. You can pretty much play this on any class. It doesn't really matter. So this is really an Contagion, Essence Drain, Bonestorm build, which will get you through the campaign in like, 4 to 6 hours. If you're doing it on a witch, obviously on the Oracle, it's going to be a little bit slower because we cannot really make use of the ascendancy. But I still think it's a very safe bet, because I think it's pretty safe to assume that in the skill tree, we will have a lot of spell damage around here. I don't think this is like gonna be purely, strengths or whatever based, because there should be enough spell damage here to run an ED Contagion. There's also like, chaos wheel here. There's a bunch of cast speed. We don't know how these nodes are going to be looking like for the druid yet, but I think it will be pretty safe to just play the ED Contagion druid here, go through all this tree and then go from there. So there you have it. That's kind of my league start plan. So I will be live today, and we're figuring it out. Again, I'm playing the safe route here. I don't want to do all the bear skills, even though they might be cool. They might also be a complete bust. So, you're happy invited to, play along. And, if you have questions, just join the stream. And I really hope I can make a nice, cast on critical build on this invitable critical hits one here. And I really hope the new druid tree and like all the keystones and everything is awesome. It's going to work out just great. But, we will see when the league starts. So that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and I see you on stream. Take care.